Good evening, Atlanta United family. We are live with our second episode of Scarves and Spikes. We're going to be joined by a very special guest today, first guest of the show, which is great. But just to kind of remind you guys, my name is Tyler Pilgrim.
Hold on. Oh, sorry. I was going to tell you. Tell the people who you are first, but you're already doing that.
Hey, well, I'm gonna get into that. No, we
Any
are
newcomers?
we are the Scarves and Spikes podcast. My name is Tyler Pilgrim, with at ATL Pilgrim on Twitter. Joined alongside me is Tommy. Tommy, tell him your new Twitter handle because you've changed it now.
I decided. Well, I got yelled at by a couple of people. Like, if you're doing an Atlanta podcast, change it. So
Yeah,
Tommy ATL 96. I had to stick with the 96.
there you go. And Sydney.
Yes, I'm at SH Wrights on Twitter. I have no numbers, and my last name has no R in it.
No
That's an
R. He's not
inside
Sydney
joke
Hunter. He is
in the
Sydney
podcast.
Hunt.
All right, just real quick.
Inside joke in the podcast.
I know we got a guest here, just to jump in real quick, but I was out one night having some drinks, and Sydney sends the video for the introduction, and I'm like, "Oh, this is really good." But Sydney, your name is spelled wrong, and it was the alcohol. I thought it was Sydney Hunter, but there was no R. And
We've been
Contrary
doing
to popular belief, is not Hunter.
we've been doing Twitter
But I
Spaces
forgive
now
you.
for almost a year, and he's like, "It's not Hunter."
it was like 5 beers in. It was my bad. So
That's okay.
apologies. But
That's
I'm glad
okay.
you finally brought that up. Like took a
So
week.
yes, make sure you guys are following us though at Scarves in Spikes on Twitter and at Scarves and Spikes on Twitch and YouTube. But with that being said, we don't want to take up any more time about us. We have a very special guest who's waiting super patiently behind the scenes, named Tristan Trager. So we're going to get him in. We're going to chat with him about his brand new news that just dropped today, and chat about the move, Atlanta United 2, and his new move to the Charleston Battery.
Let's go.
Welcome, Tristan. And this seems like a long time coming, man. I really appreciate you hopping on with us.
I know. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
impressed
So,
with the video, right?
I
I told you that video was going to be great.
It was nice.
it's real high quality stuff.
Yeah.
So before we jump into it, Tristan, I gotta introduce you obviously to everybody. Everybody knows you. Just up until essentially today, officially, you were with Atlanta United 2, came from the Air Force Academy, and now you are moving on to the Charleston Battery, which great move. I think me and you have talked about it a little bit, but for your skill set and where you're going with your career, I think it's going to be awesome. But I do have a little bit of an insight from a very reliable source who made sure to make it known that I had to call you by your nickname on this podcast. Apparently the name Buck is something going on between you and your brothers. And
yeah,
he made sure it was well known that I had to bring that up during the podcast.
That was probably my dad. That's funny.
Did you want to? Can you give us background on that, or is that?
I don't know how it started. Honestly, I think it was just. I don't know. I just grew up and I started calling my brother, I have 3 younger brothers, but the brother closest to me, I just started calling him Buck, and we just call each other Buck now.
Yeah.
It's just like a joke, but it's just a joke.
It's not a joke.
Gotcha.
Well, somebody made sure to make it known that we brought it up to give you a little bit of a little bit of a job. So tell us. I mean, we can dive right into it. You're going to Charleston Battery. The news was just made official today, but I guess for those who may not be super familiar with the twos and familiar with you, just give us a little bit of a rundown of kind of how you came up into the Air Force Academy, soccer in general, and then where you're at now.
Yeah, so I started playing soccer around 5, just like recreational. So ASO, I don't know if it's the same in Georgia, but out here in California, I was just playing recreational, and then I guess I started playing club at around like 7 or 8. And then just liked it, so I kept playing, and fortunately, was able to keep playing. And I played at the Galaxy Academy for 4 years, so that was really good for my development. And then my last 3 years, just the drive. I live about an hour from LA, so just the drive got a little too much when I was transitioning into high school. So I played for Strikers Academy out here in California, and then I knew I wanted to play D1 anywhere, honestly. So I just emailed a bunch of schools when we had those showcases, and Air Force was just, one of the schools that had sent an email that they were interested. And I didn't really have many schools that were looking at me, because I was kind of overlooked. I was pretty small still in high school. And so Air Force was just one of those schools that I knew was a great opportunity, just not only for soccer, but just for life in general. And just, having a guaranteed job after graduation and all that good stuff. So I was just persistent with the coaches, and fortunately I was able to get in last minute. And then, from there I just played my 4 years, and pro was definitely on my mind since I was little, but you don't really know if it's possible. And I think I knew after my sophomore year, I had a pretty good year. I knew like it was possible if I kept working. So I kept working, and then ended up having a really good senior year. So had a great career at Air Force, and then was fortunate enough to get drafted by Atlanta in the second round. And I knew it was going to be tough, because it's not like other universities where you can kind of just either take online classes and go to preseason, stuff like that. So Atlanta was super cool with me, finishing up my school and graduating, and then ended up joining the twos like quarter into the season, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
how was that process in terms of getting everything kind of signed? And because you had to have the waiver to put you back for your Air Force responsibilities, how was that process with the club?
Yeah, they were super transparent, super cool with it. It was more stressful on the Air Force side of things, just because of the timeline of things. It was honestly just like a lot of paperwork, and I like started in January, and it was just a big timeline of things. Yeah. And I ended up I literally got approved like the week before graduation, so I didn't even know I was going to be like coming out. And then I just graduated, and that was a big load off my shoulders. So it was nice to be able to know like I was approved. And then I literally graduated on a Wednesday, and I started training on that Saturday. So like 3 days later.
So I want to ask you about that transition, because here you are, you're a West Coast kid, born and raised on the West Coast, went to college in Colorado, but now here you are in Atlanta on the East Coast in the Southeast. What's that adjustment like for you, coming fresh out of college?
Yeah, it was honestly, it was pretty rough. Like, it was just like, it felt super rushed that I just had like graduated, and like I was moving cross country and just thrown straight into the team. So it was pretty rough, to be honest. Like the first couple weeks, and like that Atlanta heat in the summer, I had never experienced anything like that. So
different world, man.
Those first few practices were, I was like, man, like I gotta get in shape. So it was definitely kind of a rough transition, but once I got settled in, it was super nice.
Yeah, and it seems like it didn't take too long to really get acclimated. You came in, and it seems like right away you started scoring goals left and right. I mean, was it, just like you were talking about, was it just a matter of, that you haven't made that transition to the Southeast and finally getting your feet underneath you that made it easier for you to kind of acclimate?
Yeah, I think it's never easy being a new guy, especially like mid-season.
Right.
Like you're literally coming in and like, hey everyone, like I'm here to take your spot. But like, no, the guys were super cool. It didn't take too long to get familiar with them and build some relationships and build chemistry on the field. So yeah, I mean, I think after the first few games and like after a couple of weeks of training is when I just started feeling comfortable again and just back to my confidence level of where I was like in college. So yeah, it was a pretty quick transition, and I think the guys on the team made it easy for me to just kind of get into the team.
Do you think it was almost better to kind of just dive headfirst into it, and instead of having to kind of think about the transition between college play and professional play in terms of I think a lot of times you can kind of get into your head and maybe you overthink it. Did that ever come to mind, or was it just kind of like, man, I got so much going on, I'm just going to show up, do my thing, and hope for the best?
Yeah, I mean, I just had so much going on, and honestly, soccer is like just one of those things for people that just kind of clears your head. So it was just, although it's stressful, it was just nice kind of just being able to like touch the ball again with the team, because throughout the spring, I was still training with some of the guys at Air Force, but it wasn't like where I was like part of the team. I was just kind of being like an extra guy. So yeah, it was nice just diving in head first and yeah, just really getting up to the level of speed of like play.
I'm sure you had a chance to go to Mercedes-Benz Stadium and watch the first team play. Can you kind of describe what that was like, stepping into Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the first time?
Yeah, no, it was crazy. I remember driving by it the first time, and I was like, that's like one of the coolest stadiums I've seen. So,
yeah.
And then I remember the first game I went to, I think I just went alone, honestly. I got tickets from one of our team admin guys, and yeah, just the energy and like how loud it gets in there was super a super cool experience. I grew up going to Galaxy games, so obviously smaller stadium and outdoors and not as loud, but yeah, the first time I went to the first team game it was super nice. I really enjoyed it. I think they did.
Okay, that's good. That's a good sign. I mean,
I'd have to look back on the date. I went to like 3 first team games. I'm pretty sure they won every time. So
good. Hey, well then you need to keep coming then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That might have been the only win that we've had in a while. So
yeah.
Yeah.
If you all are just joining us on the podcast or online, we have Tristan Trager with us. We're Atlanta United 2 player now with the Charleston Battery. Tristan, I want to kind of ask you, Ben Pierman, of course, is one of the top coaches of the USL Championship. He did a terrific job with Philip Goodrum, another former Atlanta United 2 player, and Philip, as you probably know, won the Golden Boot in the USL Championship. How much of Ben's work with Philip and really with Memphis 901 as a whole kind of drew you to Charleston?
Yeah, I would say, Phil was like a prime example of a player that was kind of overlooked during his time. From what I've heard, just through sources, and yeah, he had an amazing year with Memphis, and Memphis, we played there away. That was actually my like second game, first like real game. Like playing more than I came on. My debut was like 2 minutes, but so yeah, watching Memphis play, just like right there, I was thrown in. So that was like my second week. Yeah, and Coach Ben Pierman, just watching his offense was just like super cool to watch, and I really thought of that. Seeing Phil have such a great year, that was definitely a big part of my decision, and just seeing how their offense operated all season, and yeah, just like kind of a counter-attacking and fast attacking offense was really appealing to me.
Was that kind of the pitch that Ben gave you? Just like, hey, look how Phil did in my offense, things like that. Is that kind of what he was telling you?
Yeah, he obviously has a great history of just winning in general, and then Just has a great history with just like attackers and forwards and just developing them and sending them off to great places. So, yeah, that was definitely a big part of my decision for sure.
So your time at the Air Force Academy, and then even growing up and all, and then of course, obviously, when you got to Atlanta, you came in, you made a big difference right from the get go. You started scoring goals off the bat, which is amazing to see. Was it always kind of your idea that you were going to be some type of forward? Were you going to be up top scoring goals, or was it when you were younger? Did you play a different position at all?
Yeah, when I was younger, I kind of jumped around. I was always playing attacking positions for the most part. And then I think in college I played like the 10, but kind of like a dual forward system, but I was labeled a 10. And yeah, I wasn't really like the biggest goal scorer growing up. And I think that I kind of just got that in college. After my sophomore year, I scored 13 goals, and then my senior year, I scored 13 again. So, yeah, I guess that came in college, and yeah, I just love scoring goals and just getting in good areas. And yeah, and I know they tried me out like outside back, and I'm free to play anywhere, but I think just being in front of goal is just probably my best position.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about kind of your move as well. But to piggyback on what you did with Atlanta, have you kind of got an idea of what your role? I know it's early still, but what your role is going to be with the Battery?
I'm not too sure yet. Yeah, Coach Pierman, he's talked a little bit. I just told him my strengths and what I feel like I'm good at, and that's just running in behind and yeah, just finding space. And so I think I'm not really sure what formation or what he's thinking or how I'm going to be integrated into the team. So I guess we'll just see in preseason.
So your
kind
time.
I was going to ask, about Charleston. It's kind of funny. It seems like every year that Atlanta United play in the U.S. Open Cup, Atlanta and Charleston get tangled up somehow. So
somehow or another.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, you've never played in the U.S. Open Cup. This will be your first time with the Charleston Battery. Have you had familiarity with it growing up, and is that something you're kind of tracking along with?
I wasn't too familiar with it growing up, but yeah, I was tracking it last year and just seeing all the USL teams kind of beating some MLS teams. So
yeah,
I mean that was part of my move as well. As I just after experiencing it and after watching it, yeah, like I know the USL is a championship's a great high level and can compete with MLS teams. So that's part of the reason I chose to go to Charleston, and obviously my long-term goal is to play in the MLS. So
the Battery has a long history with the Open Cup as well. They've been very successful, not just obviously in the Open Cup, but just in general. The Battery is one of the premier USL teams. So, so to piggyback on kind of what you were just saying, just kind of take us through what was the reasoning, what was the thought process behind going, making the move. You have obviously Atlanta United 2 is moving to MLS Next Pro, which I'm sure obviously is part of it, but kind of just take us through the thought process.
Yeah, I thought obviously last year just playing on a younger team was kind of a disadvantage, but just it was still evident to see how high the level was just going through each game. So that was one of the reasons I knew I wanted to play like in a competitive league. And I know MLS Next Pro is also competitive, but just from friends I've talked to that have played in the league and just other people, like I just feel like it's more of a, I'm getting older now, so I'm 23 and will be 24 this year. So I feel like it's more a better fit for younger players, and I just felt the need that I wanted to stay in USL. in, I guess, to progress my development and just help me out to get to the MLS. I felt like it was the best move.
Yeah.
What's the thing you're looking to forward most in the city of Charleston?
A lot of things, honestly. Obviously, it's a beautiful city, and I grew up on the West Coast, so it'll be nice to be close to the beach.
Yeah.
And my roommate at the academy is actually stationed out there right now, so that'll be nice.
Okay.
Awesome.
To kind of reconnect with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a heavy military presence, which is really cool. So hopefully that'll bring some supporters out to the games. And I think just, yeah, the project they have going on there and with Coach Pierman, it just seemed like a great fit for me and how his offense operates. So, yeah.
So have besides seeing on TV, obviously we were talking about the Open Cup a minute ago, but have you checked out any of the kind of atmosphere that the Battery has? That because you're looking at, we can talk about the twos all day.
Yeah.
Atlanta United, the first team, is a big deal, obviously at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and the twos have a great turnout. But Charleston Battery, that is their professional soccer team, so it's a little bit of a different story. Have you checked into kind of what their vibe is like?
Yeah, I mean, just playing there last year was probably one of my favorite stadiums to play in. It was definitely up there, and just because of the energy with the fan base, and the stadium's beautiful as well. Yeah, that was one of my favorite places to play last year, and it'll be different than playing at Kennesaw, which was also a beautiful stadium, but obviously the fan turnout with the first team and being the priority. So it'll be a nice change for sure, being able to play in front of a bunch of fans.
So this is kind of a fun one, but any particular, because you're talking about your goal is to go to MLS at some point, which is amazing. Is there any particular player, not necessarily in MLS, but any player that you kind of model yourself after, that you looked up to, that you just one that you kind of you see that play style and you're like, I enjoy that. I kind of want to model my play after it.
Yeah, there's a couple players. I'm just I'm like a big movement guy, and just I don't know. I've always enjoyed making runs in behind the defense and catching them off guard. So I think it's kind of cliche to say, but I guess Holland, obviously, just seeing his impact in the Prem and just how he makes runs.
Yeah,
top player. And then I guess Mbappe, he's a little different. He's on the wing. And obviously he's a little flashier than my play style, but I just like the way he finds space in behind as well and just uses his pace. And then I guess another player I like watching is Musiala, just how crafty he is.
Yeah.
On Bayern. So, yeah, I'd say those three.
Those are all good shouts.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit of a letdown though for Mbappe. Unfortunately, in the World Cup final. I mean, I'm sure you watched that, but the Argentina. You have to be happy for Thiago winning the World Cup for Argentina, right?
Yeah, I was cheering for Argentina for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever have any kind of interaction with Almada at any point with the twos?
No. So I got pulled up. So I trained with the first team 2 or 3 times, and that actually happened to be when he was with Argentina. So I never interacted with him, honestly.
Yeah, obviously, I'm sure that was probably back when Almada he first got his call up and all. But the club as a whole, and this is more for the Atlanta United fans, but they're going to bring up a lot of the twos guys to train with the first team whenever you have international breaks and things like that. But you spent a lot of time with Jack Collison with the twos, who has obviously now moved on to some other things. But what did you take away from his coaching when you were with the Twos? What was kind of something that stood out that maybe elevated your game a little bit?
Yeah, I think I love Jack. He was one of my favorite coaches for sure that I've ever been with. I think just the tenacity he brought every day. Because there's some days where you're just feeling a little off, and it was just inspiring, honestly, to see. He came into work every day and like was ready to work, and he's the coach. Like we're the players, so just the fire he brought every day to training, and no matter how bad games were going, he always wanted us to fight to the last minute, and that was something that I kind of enjoyed because playing at Air Force, we weren't like the most talented team, but we always knew we were going to outwork our opponents. So that was similar to Jack's philosophy, and that was just something I really loved about him.
And that's part of playing, I think, with a younger team as well, right? I mean,
yeah,
you were talking about it a minute ago. You're about to be 24. The Twos, admittedly, I mean, it's a very young team, so that is a challenge when you're playing with that kind of a group that you're going to be involved in the mental game just as much as you are the talent, because you're looking at a bit of maturity that you kind of have to fight sometimes. And for you, was it kind of a weird situation to get put in to be like kind of one of the senior guys, quote unquote, on the roster at times?
Yeah, a little bit, but it was honestly pretty similar, like to my college experience, like just from being a senior and playing with guys that were freshmen. So it wasn't too weird, I would say. It was just, I think, just like you were saying, just kind of we were just missing a few more mature pieces in the squad to just kind of keep us in games a little more, I would probably say.
How did you keep from getting down, like maybe when the results weren't coming your way, coming the team's way, I should say?
I can only imagine that was a struggle.
Yeah,
for the whole team last season.
Honestly, I was just trying to keep a positive mindset and just knowing my situation. Like, I feel extremely blessed to be able, to be playing and for the Air Force to be giving me this opportunity. So I was trying to keep a positive mindset most days, pretty much every day. That like I was literally getting paid to play soccer, so as my job. So I guess that was getting me through it. And at the end of the day, like win or lose, it's all about having fun. And I think we were doing a good job with our group, but we were just missing that little maturity, I think.
Yeah. So for the Charleston Battery fans who might be listening, because I know there's a handful out there that definitely were super excited to hear the news today. What would you tell them, and the Atlanta United fans as well, but what would you tell them in terms of, first of all, they may not know kind of what the situation is with you in the Air Force Academy with the delay, being a part of a professional team and all. But as their newest player, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I would tell them that, kind of just a hard-nosed player, and I'm going to go into work every day. Work my tail off and get results. And I'm looking forward to scoring a bunch of goals this season.
And as an Atlanta fan, I followed you last year, followed the whole team. Obviously, we all did.
Yeah.
But it was good to see. It was definitely a breath of fresh air. To see that kind of work ethic. So I'm super happy for you. I know the Twos will hate to see you go, but I think it's a great step for your career for sure. And I'm super excited for you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I guess I would say to Atlanta fans too, it's all love. I built a lot of friendships during my time with the Twos, coaches, players. And so I really enjoy my time there. Yeah.
Sweet.
Maybe we see you back soon.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm gonna send everybody up there to go check out a Charleston Battery game.
Let's do it.
All right.
Cool.
Tristan Trager, everybody, formerly of the Atlanta United Twos, now newest player for the Charleston Battery in the USL. So, Tristan, we really appreciate you coming on, man. It's been awesome getting to kind of chat with you and get to know you a little bit. And obviously, we wish you all the best going to Charleston. You're more than welcome to stay on, by the way, while we chat about other stuff. But I know you're a busy guy, so either way, we definitely appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. It was super fun.
Of course. Anytime. Good luck.
Welcome back anytime.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys.
See you, buddy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Peace.
All right. So
it's a great convo.
Yeah, I mean, and he's such a good guy. Super happy for him. You know, I'm one of those that, from a Twos perspective, you know, it's like, man, I wish Tristan could have stayed, but
right.
You know, I'm super happy for him, especially, you know, trying to move up into MLS at some point. And for the Charleston Battery fans that are listening, you're getting a good one. I'm super happy for him. You're getting a good player. He came in to the Twos last season, and the moment he stepped on the field, you know, he was scoring goals left and right. It seemed almost at will, and he's gonna be a good one for you guys. So super excited. And then for the Twos fans that are here, check them out.
I gotta give Tommy a shout out for the hard-hitting questions during the interview.
I know, right?
Well, you guys had them more prepared, and I was going to ask about the MLS Next Pro logo.
Oh man, we should have prepared.
I was like, oh, do I do it? Do I not do it? You know, if our sponsors, you know, MLS Next Pro, then you know I'm going to ruin it for us. So I didn't really want to ruin it.
We'll put a pin on that for next time.
Okay, the next he would have just been like, it looks drunk. It looks like it's falling over.
Yeah.
So, all right. So but yeah, great conversation. Super excited to chat with him. As far as Atlanta United news, man, we got plenty to talk about. But I guess the biggest one, what's the latest on Joseph Martinez to Miami? Do you want to light up your candle again, Tommy? Where's it at?
I sold it on eBay the other day.
What? Are you serious?
How about
you sold a half-burnt candle on eBay?
I mean, I hope he's not listening, because then he's going to know I lit it a couple times. But I never lit it until that day, and I sold it as never lit candle, and now it's been lit.
My gosh!
So if he watches this and he does this, this is I forgot that I put it on. So this is my bad. So I don't want to.
He's going to get a low score. He's good. A low seller score on eBay now.
I have a 5-star thing. We can't screw
that
now
up. You're going to have a 4.9.
Not anymore.
What are you doing?
Yeah, my bad. That's my bad. So
what candle are you going to buy now?
I don't know.
Almada?
The other problem was when I lit it in my wife's office the other day, I didn't blow it out. So yeah, it's just, this is a series of bad events. So I'll just never light a candle again.
There's so many things that have happened in the past week with this candle that I was unaware of.
This candle's like a co-host for us apparently now. I saw it on the YouTube clips that I was lighting a candle up. But yeah, James is calling me a scammer here.
Oh my god!
I got the alert. It said you made $15 on eBay. I'm like, what did I sell? And then I was like, oh, the candle, great. So that's my bad. Everyone's calling me fraud now in the chat.
So $15.
Yeah. So.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I feel like you could have got 25 at least.
So let's get back to Joe. So let's in case he's watching, whoever bought these. So Joseph in Miami. What's going to happen first? The chicken or the egg? Is Miami going to announce him, or is Atlanta going to say once a 5-stripe, always a 5-stripe? Or whatever.
I think it's going to be Miami.
You know, that's cold. Like, I figure you would like set up something, be like, hey, like, can we send out the tweet first? Like, you make a little sideways deal in the alley and say, can we tweet this first? Like, let the team announce it first. Like, I think it's just bad business to let Miami announce it first. Because technically you probably have already cut him, right? Like, you probably have already, killed the contract. So why can't you just announce it and then they can announce it in 3 days?
That's a good question. I mean,
some backroom stuff that
Let's get the admin on here. The admin.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
I don't know.
Apparently there's some tweets going around from Luis Miguel Echegaray. I'm trying to pull up right now that the deal will be announced tomorrow. So yeah, Wednesday, if you're listening to this, watching this a little bit later on. So I'm trying to pull that up. But yeah, I don't really see it right now, but I'm sure the news will be announced in due time. And whether Atlanta announced it or Miami announced it, I mean, it seems like Joseph Martinez to Miami is pretty much a done deal. And now really the onus is on Miami or Atlanta to find that replacement. We'll talk about Georgios in a little bit, but the onus is on Atlanta United to now find that replacement. And I think we talked about it last week, not just any replacement, but a solid replacement that can score goals and doesn't just take up a roster space, because right now this team doesn't have a striker outside of Jackson Conway, and barring an incredible breakthrough season from Jackson Conway, letting United get this sorted sooner rather than later is going to be really tough sledding over the first half of the season or so. So there's some names, like I said.
We have technically.
Who
else do we have?
Eric Lopez.
Eric Lopez.
Technically still on the roster as of
That's
most
true.
recent.
He scored one banger against Nashville, and then I don't think we ever heard of Eric Lopez again.
Hey, but he did score against Nashville.
He did, and Joseph.
And who did not score against Nashville?
Joseph Martinez.
There you go. It's all falling into place.
Build the Lopez statue.
Right.
So, but yeah, so here, the most recent thing is, I think it was mentioned, it is going to be a 1-year deal, I think, with a 1-year option potentially is kind of what the rough rumor is right now. It's an end of an era, right? I mean, we knew it was coming. Joseph is on his way out. He has been for quite some time, and it sucks, man. As a fan, we talked about it last week. As a fan, it sucks to see. Atlanta legend for sure, always will be. Nothing you can do will change that. And I do hope that one day they build the freaking statue, because the amount that he put into this team was something that won't be repeated in this league and probably this hemisphere for a very long time. So send him out the way that he deserves. But for now, it's business as it needs to be, and they've got to find a replacement. But so one of the things, I guess, is a perfect time to introduce this too. One of the things that we wanted to do was start bringing in a tweet of the week. So I'm just going to throw this out there off the top of my head, but you guys need to start like hashtagging Scarves and Spikes so that we can like check out these tweets and maybe post it up on here at some point. But our favorite buddy,
we could have cringe tweet of the week too. Like we could
definitely do that.
Because during these losses, these tweets could be pretty bad. So we might have the tweet of the week and the cringe tweet of the week.
Yeah.
It's
hot take of the week.
It could get real bad after losses. I mean, when this Joseph thing announced, we're gonna have like 10 cringe tweets of the week.
We're
tomorrow.
cycling through.
As soon as it goes happen, like it's gonna get crazy. So let's just get ready for that, because Twitter's gonna go insane tomorrow.
Yep. Yes, it is. But yeah, so our very first one, Rob Usry of Dirty South Soccer, as you guys probably know, was I guess our initial tweet of the week, which is cool, I guess. So award to Rob.
You want to fire it up here on the stream?
Yeah. So and for everybody listening after the fact, Sydney, you want to do the honors?
Yes. Rob Usry tweeting out on January 10th. Joseph Martinez is Atlanta United, like it or not. Him leaving the club is the official end to the era we all fell in love with. The onus is now on the club to give us a reason to stay in love, end quote. So, that was Rob's tweet from, a few days back. But, he's absolutely right. This has caused Atlanta United to lose more goodwill than it's ever lost in its short existence. And like we were just saying, I mean, it's the end of an era and the book is closed. And what's the next step for Atlanta United? And like I said earlier, you can't just bring anybody in. you have to bring somebody in that can not take the mantle completely from Joseph, because there's only one Joseph Martinez, right? But somebody that is competent, somebody that can score goals, somebody that can gel with the team in relatively short order. So really interested to see who that is for Atlanta United. But again, hopefully it's a player that can really prove his quality in relatively short order.
Absolutely. And I was making a drink before, and I pulled out my championship cup, and then I turned it around, and there's all these names, and not many are left.
Right.
Brad Guzan and Miles Robinson. They're the only ones left here.
Yeah.
Stop washing the cup, so you stop washing the names off of it. You have like Death Note over there, and every time you wash it, you're removing people.
Right.
From the championship team.
Yeah, it's Andrew Carlton. Jeez, like just looking at some of these names, they even had some of the names wrong on this cup. Like that's the most ridiculous thing.
Yeah.
Can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's there. And then it's Mikey. It's Michael Ambrose, right? Mikey Ambrose.
Mikey. Everyone calls him Mikey. Mikey Ambrose.
Well, the cup calls him Stephen Ambrose.
Stephen Ambrose.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I just noticed that for the first time.
Who made these cups?
It's Fanatics. They screw things up all the time.
Oh my word.
That's amazing.
There goes our sponsorship with Fanatics, by the way.
I know, right? Well, we could
oh man,
cut that one out. Sorry, guys.
But what we said last week too is that you're going to the club needs to do a better job helping us relate to a lot of these players. Like they did consistent videos with these players, and you felt like you knew them. Almiron, I mean, even though Lack speaking English, he was having fun in all these videos, right? The emoji video we saw. Gressel became just a fan favorite immediately.
WrestleMania, baby.
And what does he do? He goes out there and he takes the cup straight to the supporter section, and then he's gone. Like it's frustrating because I think that's what made a lot of people fall in love with this team, was that you had you felt like you knew these guys, and they have fallen away from that. And I think that they need to get back to that. And I think they're on their way. I think they've gotten better. After Heinze left, they started doing some of the videos again, like we talked about last week. But I think they need to continue to do that and find that player that fans could grab onto. And I think it's frustrating too, because you've got a lot of players that are just in and out, right? And I think that one thing that Garth has looked at in Seattle, and we'll see if it changes here, is that there's a lot of people with a lot more tenure on the Seattle teams. They're more consistent, and they move a few guys in and out each year, but the team's overall consistent. And now that you've gotten rid of a lot of people that the club hasn't found valuable, maybe it gets better. Maybe this is the start of building, signing contracts and keeping these players for, 3 to 5 years. But I mean, step one, you got rid of everybody, right? Like you got rid of all these guys that had bad contracts that just aren't helpful to the salary cap. And now you got to fill it in with some guys that are going to be, good here long-term and on reasonable contracts, because, you see Twitter, you see our chat, and, people didn't like Emerson Hyman, and they didn't like Moreno and Franco. And really, I don't think that they don't like the players, even though sometimes they make mistakes like everybody else. But you look at the salary cap hit and they say, why are we paying this much for this guy to fit in this roster when we have to fill other spots? Like whenever the MLS releases their salary thing twice a year, people are immediately going and looking at it, and then you just see the angry tweets. Like I remember when the Columbus Crew found out Zardes was a DP, all of a sudden, like they lost it. Like Columbus Twitter broke, and like that's just here. It's just such a tight salary cap that anybody that's overpaid, they just have a mark on them, and if they don't produce, you're going to get beat up on Twitter. And that's just unfortunately where a lot of these players that have moved on in the past 2 weeks we're on that line here. I mean, Rossetto's now like the lone guy right now, I think, that really has that mark, and people are like, why is he still on this team? I like Rossetto. He seems like a nice guy, but unfortunately for what he's paid, it just hasn't been worth it. So I think that's one of the big things here, is that fans just they get nervous on what you pay. And Atlanta United, everybody knows that if you go to Atlanta United, you're going to get paid a little bit more than anybody else. And maybe that changes here in the next couple of years, but they're going to have to figure something out here quick.
Just to kind of pivot, back to the Joseph discussion just a little bit, I want to bring up Niall's comment here in the chat. By the way, if you guys are watching on Twitch and YouTube, or YouTube, please feel free to leave a comment or tweet us at Scarves and Stripes if you're listening to the podcast. But Niall, good friend of the site, saying, let's please not compare the next striker to Joseph. Unrealistic expectations, IMO. And I don't think he's saying that we are, the three of us are, but I think that for the fan base, that's a good message. Let's not put too many undue expectations on the next guy that is Atlanta United striker. It's not fair to him, and really that's going to put a mountain of pressure on him that he doesn't need, especially with him coming to a new club. So no, that's definitely a good point.
Yeah.
Are we going to sign an emoji to him though? Like that's probably one of the more important things, right?
I mean, hey, good thought. Well, the angry face is done. You can't do that one anymore.
I mean, you got to sign some emoji to him and get some great signs out there.
I hope it's the soccer net emoji to indicate how many he's going to score for us. But I agree with that though. Like you can't compare anybody to Joseph. It is unfair, like you were saying, Sydney. Like you're going to wind up, whoever does show up to quote unquote fill those boots is going to end up already having enough pressure. They know who Joseph Martinez is. Even if it's somebody coming from Europe or wherever else, they're going to very quickly, if they don't already, once it gets mentioned, hey, you're going to go to Atlanta? Oh, well, what about Joseph? That's going to be the conversation always. And that's fine. They don't need any more pressure. They just don't. Right. There's not going to be a single person that's going to come in and do what Joseph did to Atlanta, period. Yeah. It's not going to happen. Right. That doesn't mean we can't have a successful goal scorer. That's what the club is going to try to do. But we can't try to compare, apples here. Like this is an apples and oranges situation. This is not a, apples and apples thing. Joseph is very much the guy that did his thing. He left his mark. Don't try to imitate him. Come in and be yourself. Right. Come in and make your own mark. Come in and endear yourself to the fans in the way that you do, whoever that may be. The team definitely is going to be looking for a couple of brand new faces in terms of, the face of the club. You had Joseph, you had Miggy, you've had Gressel to a degree, Parkey to a degree,
Adam John.
Yeah, absolutely, always. I think Gutman is going to be one of the big ones coming up for sure. Mm-hmm. Who's going to be? I mean, he's already endeared himself to the fans, certainly. But you can't, as the new striker or new strikers coming in to this team, you can't try to fill those shoes. Fill your own shoes and do your own thing.
Right.
A lot of Kubo Torres love in the chat here. I just wanted to say that, Kubo club legend. So just want to make sure we got that out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Niall said Miles Robinson if he stays.
Right.
I think we talked about that last week with Miles. Like, if I'm Atlanta United and if there's a chance to keep Miles long term, you got to make him the face right now. And it's risky. It's risky business there because if you go and you promote Miles everywhere nonstop, but they're promoting Almada as well, and he's probably not going to be here too long. But if you really want to make him feel loved here, you put him on the billboards. You give him the love. I know that Brad's going to likely be the team captain again. But I think that Miles, if you really want to maybe help your situation out a little bit better here, because who knows? I mean, maybe he doesn't get a great offer anywhere else after this season. Do you want him going to another MLS team? No, but it's a possibility. You've seen other big MLS players leave other teams and go somewhere else. So if anything, you got to make him feel as loved as possible. And I know Miles is already loved here. But I think that if you make him your hopefully long-term commitment guy and not make him a DP in the future, I think that's the best for it. Even if he's here for a couple of years, I think it's still good for the team.
Yeah. Good.
So to kind of pivot along that same line of conversation, the guy that has, because I definitely want to dive into the stuff at the training ground last Friday and then also today. I wasn't there today, but there's still, Miles spoke today at the training ground, which was good. Lots of good stuff coming out last Friday from the training ground, even though it was freaking cold as crap. I was so like, it was miserable, but it was a good time. It was good getting
miserable
to see
in the video that they posted on YouTube.
It was
He
so
was just
bad.
standing there and it's just shaking. You
I
go
was
from
like,
Qatar
I'm gonna
to
come prepared.
Atlanta in the winter.
Yeah, I got my jacket on. I'm good to go. No, that freaking wind, it's terrible. So no, I do want to hit on being able to talk to Almada. Gazan spoke, which was really good. Obviously, Pineda spoke. There's lots of good information from that. But since we were talking about the striker position and all, and it was mentioned in the comments. I think James maybe said, "Have y'all practiced pronouncing his name yet?" And I tried.
Georgios Giacomakis.
Can you fit that on the jersey? Yeah. Can you fit that name on the back of a jersey? Like, that's a serious question.
That is a good question, actually.
They go by his first. He could go by his first name.
I'm just gonna call him George.
I'm gonna look it up to see if they can fit it on the back. If he's done it in the past,
if he comes here, his nickname is gonna be Georgie. I mean, I don't have any. I don't know what else to say. But GG. yeah, double G, GG. Georgios Giacomakis, I think would be roughly how you say it properly. Anyway, he is kind of one of the most recent rumors for the striker position for Atlanta. He's been linked to Atlanta, but also to Japan, to the Urawa Red Diamonds. But he's currently playing at Celtic over in the Scottish Premiership. And if you look at his history, the guy has figured out a way to score goals when he probably shouldn't. And that's good. That's a good sign. He basically single-handedly assisted his team in the Dutch Eredivisie. And that was during where he was playing for a side that was being relegated. Yeah. And then he moved to Celtic, and he's still having some success. Obviously, nothing to the degree that he did a couple of seasons ago, but the guy has found a way to do the job when the job was very difficult because he didn't have the backing of a good squad behind him necessarily. So now it's a matter of the most recent news I think that I saw today, about an hour before we went live on the show, was Celtic's head coach was saying that there was no deal with the team in Japan. So take that for what it's worth. That may not be that there is no deal. That may just be that they're trying to not say anything publicly. However, you do have Atlanta potentially in the running. I mean, we'll see how it plays out, but Atlanta should very much be able to more or less match or beat any offer I think that the Red Diamonds put in. Never even heard of the club. No offense to them. I don't really follow Japanese soccer like that, but
casual.
Yeah, but you're looking at a team that isn't, I mean, admittedly isn't going to be able to throw the money that Arthur Blank could. So it's a good shout. We'll see what happens, but I'm really curious to kind of see where it goes.
Yeah, Celtic won the double last season, and they're in the Champions League. I mean, obviously didn't do too well.
Yeah,
but yeah, he scored a goal in 6 appearances in the Champions League. So there's that you can add on to that for a guy like him. Bruno asking, is he with a DP spot? I imagine he would be, or a very, very, very high TAM deal. I don't imagine that he'll be a GAM player, especially with that Champions League experience and that European experience that he does have. But yeah, we talked about Tyler with VVV Venlo in the Eredivisie. 26 goals in 30 league appearances, and really the best player on a team that ultimately got relegated, as we mentioned. That made the move to Scotland. 13 goals, 21 appearances in the league last season, as again Celtic won the double and then thus far 6 goals, 19 appearances in this season. So Nels for goals, certainly not quite the player that he was 2021, where he is pretty much scoring for fun, but still for a relatively good value. I mean, it could really prove a good bank for Atlanta United's buck. You said it, Tyler. Arthur Blank has deep pockets, and anything that the club in Japan can put up, I mean, Arthur Blank and Atlanta United can match it. So I think this would be a really good signing for Atlanta United, and it certainly fills a need. Again, we can't compare him to Joseph Martinez because there's only one Joseph Martinez. So that would be my fear, would be, are the fans going to put too much pressure on Georgios and say, hey, we just lost an icon, one of the best strikers in MLS history. I have to fill that role like for like. It's not going to happen. I think it may take some time for him to get acclimated, and once he does, he'll be able to really fit in with his club, fit into MLS, because that's a whole new country, a whole new league, and I think he could prove a really solid signing for Atlanta United. I mean, it hasn't happened yet, obviously, but we'll see what happens within these next few weeks.
Anytime you replace a star player, they're going to be immediately compared to him, no matter what. And it's up to that player to just show that what they can do, and the fans will immediately love them. There's been players that have come in here with hate before. People have not liked them for crazy reasons, and then within a couple of weeks, they're magically in love with them. And
Dom Dwyer?
Yeah, Dom Dwyer. Amada didn't have a lot of fans coming in, and he got over. So you replace a star player, they're going to look at it, and really winning is all that matters, right? And this city is starving for a winner. I mean, you got Georgia and the Braves who've been doing very good, but the Hawks have been the Hawks lately. The Falcons are still rebuilding, and now Atlanta United's rebuilding, but they just had the biggest acquisition of the offseason. They got the best front office in the league. They got the guy that has basically come into every team and has turned them into champions. So right now, I think fans still need to be patient. We should make the playoffs. I mean, that's absolutely something. Like, we don't even know who our striker is right now, but with the money that this team spends in a year, they should make the playoffs 100%. There's a lot of bad teams in this league. So they should definitely be able to get in. After that, I've always seen this as a 2-3 year project. And honestly, I think that we're ahead of where we are in this project. We've moved on from a lot of bad contracts, and hopefully they can remain gone, because we tried to erase the Eric Lopez situation, and now it's back. And I have a feeling they're going to figure out something here that's going to get him off the books. But you're getting all the bad things off the books, like we said, right? And now you've just got to find those players. But if you rush, and this is what everybody's complained about over the past couple of years, started with the Marcelino Moreno. I'm sorry, Tyler, we got to talk about Moreno. When Moreno came in, they didn't even have a head coach. They had a temporary coach, and they knew they were hiring a coach in the offseason. Why immediately do that? Because you had an immediate DP spot open, and they wanted to spend it. It was a lost season. I'm sorry, Moreno wasn't going to come in and light up the league enough to be able to sneak them into the playoffs. So you can't jump in here and make silly mistakes. And this first part of the season might be rough to watch. I mean, they could be good, but it could also be rough. But that's okay. That's what the Sounders have done. And again, this is a multiple year project. And if we still had Carlos running things by himself, we saw basically the last two things that he's done. And he did one really good thing and one bad thing. He got NTN, which was a fantastic move. I think we've all agreed on that.
Mm-hmm.
But then he kept Rossetto at that contract amount. Now, maybe they negotiated something down. I don't know. That's my hope, but let's just assume it's not. That's not a very good deal. But now you got a guy that is very smart, watching every single move that they make, and that's what we want. I think we wanted someone to check Boca, and unfortunately, Darren Eales was not that guy. Darren Eales just said, "Do what you want, man. Sign whoever you want. I'll support you," and that's where everything has gone downhill. Darren Eales leaving was so sad, and now that you look at it and just kind of take a broad look at what this team has done and see how Darren's kind of just sat in the back and let him run it, it's so important.
I'll kind of tag off your comment on that, Tommy. That's an excellent point. But yeah, Mark, ATL United 7 ATLET 711 saying winning fixes everything. I mean, we can't none of us can argue with that. I'll bring up 2 points. One of them is related, Tommy, to what you were just saying about Darren Neals. The thing about Darren Neals, I mean, he was a great president. I mean, beloved by almost all in the LA United fan base. But one thing to know about him, he had no MLS experience. I mean, granted, he played at Brown University, so he had some exposure to American soccer before coming to Atlanta United. But at the same time, he had no MLS experience. So a guy like Lagerwey, who has an MLS experience, he's playing the league. He's been an executive in the league for years. And we've all seen what he's done with the Sounders. That is, you know, like you said, probably the biggest acquisition that Atlanta United has made in the offseason. But I'll make another point, and it's related to something I read from Phil Neville the other day, the Inter Miami coach, and we already talked about Miami. But Neville was saying since the US or the North American and European calendars are different for soccer, you don't really have the opportunity to bring in top players like big names until the summer. So that probably speaks to a lot of what Lagerwey's strategy was in Seattle. So a player like Giakoumakis does make sense because I wouldn't consider him a top player. I mean, he's a good player in a league where, you know, some have said, "Oh, it's the Scottish Premiership, whatever." But I mean, he's a good player that could probably, given the chance, could blossom in MLS. So you're kind of in a catch-22 if you want to bring in a top quality player. I mean, you could always sign a free contract, but Neville brought up a good point. You know, with the calendar being the way it is in North American MLS versus Europe, that kind of throws a crimp into plans if you're looking to bring in a really big player.
Yeah, and I think it's worth pointing out too, though, because we typically look at maybe to the fan base's dissent a little bit that Atlanta's always looking at South America, but you're now seeing Atlanta, at least in the rumors that have been popping up, you know, no huge signings yet. Of course, you had Etienne, which again was free agent. You have the rumor about Alexander Cayens, again, free agent, but still coming from MLS, coming from New York. But you're kind of looking at it seems like Europe a little bit more, which is good to see. Not because there's anything wrong with South America, but there's an entire world outside of South America that you can go hunting. And George, just going to be the name I call him from now on. George is, you're looking at a guy from Greece who has played around Europe. He played in Greece. He's played in Scotland. Like you were saying a minute ago, Sydney, he's played in the Champions League, and you're expanding your horizons a bit on talent and not being so, you know, narrow-minded and tunnel visioned essentially. And if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I mean, at the end of the day, nobody's going to know if they're going to be good in MLS until they show up in MLS and do something, right? But you got to go where you can get the best bang for your buck. And if a guy that, you know, decided he was going to score like 26 goals in a side that was getting relegated in Europe a couple of years ago and then still is doing fairly decent for the Premiership, like by all means, say, hey, man, see what he can do. See if he can come here and reinvigorate himself a little bit and capture a little bit of that lightning in the bottle that he clearly had when he was playing, you know, for a Dutch side. So I'm excited. I think if it does turn out to be something that comes to fruition, I think there's plenty to be excited about. I mean, if you look at the guy's highlight videos, he's fun to watch, I think. And who knows, he pivoting a little bit to the training ground conversation. Maybe he's one of those 3 players that Gonzalo Pineda said we're going to be hopefully being signed here in the next couple of days.
I'll kind of defer to our friend Jared Smith from Soccer Down Here, who's a Celtic fan. I mean, he's just on board with it and has a very complimentary things to say about Georgios Giakoumakis, GG. So I guess if Jarrett's on board, then with him being a Celtic fan and a lot of apparently Celtic fans not wanting to see him leave the club, I guess I'm on board. So
Atlanta fans don't want Joseph to leave, and we know a little bit more than that, right? So
yeah,
I don't know. The fans love players, so I don't know if listening to the fans is always the best way of doing it.
Well, if they don't want him to leave, it's usually for a good reason. So
yeah.
They clearly think there's still something that he offers at Celtic, and if he can bring it to Atlanta, more power to him. So pivoting a little bit, because we were just talking about rumors and transfer rumors and all that good stuff. The training ground last Friday was opened up for media. It was the first media session of 2023. Really, really good time, besides the fact that it was freezing. Andrew Gutman, by the way, decided he was going to run out. I think Brooks Lennon did the same thing. Don't know what it is with them, but they showed up with, short sleeves, nothing on besides that, short sleeves and shorts. Don't know how they did it, but you had a mixture of first team, Atlanta United 2, Academy, kind of everybody sprinkled in. And they're just getting the season going. And it's good to see. Thanks, Sydney.
So Tyler's arm in a prominent position, trying to get pictures of the players.
You're
welcome. I got a picture of Almada, and he liked it on Instagram. So that's my fangirl moment. I'm just going to throw it out there.
Nice.
I had to when I saw it. I had to zoom in.
The picture doesn't tell you how cold it was.
Anyway, sorry to derail the conversation.
Oh, hey, look, I'll be the guinea pig. It's okay. But yeah, for everybody listening, laugh at the fact they got a picture of everybody there, and just happened to catch me in a pose where I was holding my arm up above everybody trying to get some pictures. So, but no, it was a good time. You had Thiago Almada, world champ Thiago Almada, speak for a little bit. Brad Gazan, first time we've heard from him in a very long time in terms of in front of the media. And then, of course, Pineda. And before that, they had the open training so that everybody could watch and check things out. And if you've followed the Scarves and Spikes Twitter and my Twitter and all of us, you've probably seen the videos that we posted. But it was some small-sided, high-intensity kind of drills that we were able to see very up close. And one of the things that was worth mentioning, I was chatting with Jason Longshore, actually. You guys know Jason, obviously from the radio, from 92.9 The Game, also of soccer down here. But he brought up a really good point about one of the things that Gonzalo Pineda was kind of overheard chatting with a couple players about was forcing their movement and their play out of the back. You're looking at a very small-sided field, right? And I think one of the biggest complaints probably from last season was you had these little mistakes as they were trying to play out of the back that led to turnovers and they just got punished. The team got punished on it. And there was a moment, and I can't remember what player it was, so sorry, but I don't remember what player it was. And he was being pressed very heavily and tried to dribble his way out of the back. And after it was all said and done, Pineda went to him and was like, no, this is where, as a team, there needs to be off the ball movement. There needs to be your own movement. You're not trying to do this by yourself. You're trying to, if you're being pressed that heavily, make the pass, and you got to rely on your teammates to make those off the ball moves to get open so that you can break the press. Once you break the press, then you're potentially, and this is something Pineda spoke about, if you break that first bit of pressure, you've mostly broken the second line of pressure, and then you're open to move forward into the attacking third. And it all starts at the very back, though. And it was something that was very encouraging to see. I think it's a technical thing, and I know maybe some folks listening are not super into that kind of the side of the game, but it was very encouraging because he focused on it and made it a point that I think if you watched the team last season, you could look at some of the players and be like, why are you not moving? Why are you not running off the ball? Like, open yourself up, make some moves, open up angles, this, that, and the other. And that it just didn't seem to happen a lot last season. But Pineda, to his benefit, like he was making it a note and making it a point to bring that to the forefront and show that there are ways to break this pressure besides feeling like you have to dribble out of everything. And it's a good sign. So it was good to see. So we saw the videos, saw how they were training a little bit. And then we spoke with Almada. Almada was just, he's like a kid. He's giddy. He's super excited. He's still coming off that World Cup high,
Still drinking, still drunk from the after party.
Yeah. They asked, I think at one point, how long did you celebrate after? And he was just like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 days. I didn't sleep, So, which I don't blame him. If you followed his Instagram, you'd know that dude didn't sleep at all for like days straight. Brad Gazan, it was good. It was so good to hear from him. He got out there and in typical Brad fashion, his first thing was, complaining about the cold, and I won't say it here, but throwing out some expletives.
Brad's from Chicago. I mean, I don't understand that.
I don't know. He's been living in Georgia too long. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
living in the UK
more than I thought Brad just had a glow to him. Watching that video, he just looked so happy to be there, be in front of the the media. I mean, it looked like he missed it, and this is probably you have to assume this is his retirement tour. You'd imagine, unless he's doing the Tom Brady. What?
I said he wouldn't say that.
No, I mean he wouldn't, but I mean Tom Brady wouldn't either, and who knows what Brady's going to do here either. But this might be his last year, and it is probably definitely the last year with him in Atlanta United. So I could see why he's happy. I mean, a lot of us didn't think that he was going to return. I had a medical friend that was on 5-strip final and talked to him. He's a doctor at University Hospitals here in Ohio, and he just said with the age and the injury that Brad had, and he saw the video too, he thought he was never playing again. And let alone here's Brad, working out earlier. I was keeping him up on the situation, and he was just shocked. Like he said, Miles is the guy that's going to recover from this faster. It's going to be in better shape, even though it happened a little bit later. That he was going to be okay. Or no, I'm sorry, Miles happened first, right? No, Brad, and then Miles. Yeah. But they didn't think he was going to be able to come back from it, and here he is, and he makes it sound like he's ready to start game 1. So, I mean, good for him. And this is probably, I mean, we've got 3 very experienced goalkeepers on this team right now. This is probably the last year for that. I think after this year, we probably go a little bit younger. This has been a spot we've paid a lot on, which a lot of MLS teams don't. So it'll be interesting to see what they do next year after they likely move on from Brad.
Yeah, and I don't want to steal Tyler's thunder, but Brad was saying, he was, what's the word, Tyler, frustrated or angry watching soccer while being
irritated. He was frustrated about it.
Yeah, frustrated.
He was out of control, he said.
Yeah. And pretty much, I like the quote. He's talking about his kids, and his kids really helped him take his mind off the game and helped him kind of focus on his recovery. So I think that time away from the game, that time with his kids and his wife really helped him kind of level set his priorities. And I think he'll be, 38, 39 at the end of the year. But no, it certainly does seem like if this isn't Brad Gazan's last year in MLS, it certainly is his last year with Atlanta United. And he's put in a lot of good years. Can't say his form has always stayed the same, but he's had some phenomenal years with Atlanta United. And there's some questions about, hey, he was signed from Middleborough in 2017, and essentially Alec Can was keeping the seat warm from him between the sticks. And Can, to his credit, did an excellent job, especially knowing that his starting role would be usurped by Brad Gazan when he came over here. But yeah, when you talk about club legends, players that have meant so much to the club. You got to put Brad Guzan up there, right? Just to not so much his skill, because he has shown his skill a lot with this club, but just what he means from a organizational standpoint, from a leadership standpoint, and just really not being afraid to get his defense in line and having harsh words for his defense. But that's a keeper's job. The keeper doesn't want to work for a shutout. I mean, he'd be satisfied if he just stood there and done nothing all day. And while he's not quite Jordan Pickford, like I said, he's willing to really get on his defense at times, and at the same time, let them know that it's not personal, right? It's the game, and when the game's over, or until the game's over, he can't shut off. He can't turn it off. So definitely credit to Brad. James said that fans hated in Guzan all of 2021, then instantly regret everything in 22. So you don't know what you got until it's gone.
Exactly. And the thing about Brad is, I don't know, say what you want to about his age and all that stuff, but the dude's not going to stop until he's not going to stop until he has to. But
yeah, exactly.
At the end of the day, they needed a leader like Brad last season. Mm-hmm. And you can look at a couple of points that probably would have been saved had Brad been between the sticks last season. And those couple of points probably would have been the difference between not making the playoffs and making the playoffs. But then
those intangibles, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. There's the leadership back there, the yelling. I mean, everybody always wants to joke around and be like, God, all he does is yell at people. Well, I mean, I think everybody else wanted to do was yell at people last season too. Like I was screaming, like, at some of these mistakes that were being made. Like, what are you doing? And he even mentioned that. He kind of brought it up, like, because he had the broadcast a couple of times last season, which was really cool. And the fact that he was up in the broadcast booth, and it's your team that you're watching still. It's not like this is a team you retired from. Like, you're still actively a part of the team, and you're broadcasting about it. How in the world you stay unbiased, I have no idea. I thought he did a great job, but he mentioned about how it was difficult to, go from being up in the broadcast booth to then going downstairs, in Mercedes-Benz or whatever, to the locker room and switching that or flipping that switch and trying to, get past the frustration of all these little things that went wrong, to then go into the locker room and try to, be a productive member of the locker room. And it's tough. I mean, I totally understand that. Like, it's like you said, Sydney, those are the intangibles that they're so hard to describe, but the team needed it last season. So it was good to hear from him. I was super excited to hear from him. And then, of course, Pineda, his big thing at the training ground Friday was there's a lot of conversation, but obviously the big thing that he said was, we're looking to bring in 3 players very soon. So that was Friday. Of course, you have the weekend, and then you have Martin Luther King Day yesterday, when a lot of the club wasn't actually there. Nothing today. So if any of these 3 potential players are going to be officially announced, you would hope that it would be coming this week sometime. Kind of hoping it was today, but it didn't happen. So, you're kind of thinking maybe Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, something better pop off. And we'll just have to see how it plays out. But you've got some names out there. We've talked about them. George, Alexander Callens was another big one. And other than that, I mean, it may be somebody that we don't even know about yet, that Atlanta isn't linked to, that we have heard of. So it'll be curious. It'll be very curious to see kind of where the club goes.
Yeah, Mark's saying in the chat, he's guessing that Joseph gets announced first. So that'll probably be my guess too. I mean, the season starts February 25th, but I mean, preseason's coming up, or not. I mean, we're in preseason, but the first preseason match is coming up on the 28th against Chattanooga. You ideally would like to have at least 2 of those players in the fold with some training behind them, and then may not play them the entire time, obviously, in preseason, but trot them out and allow fans to see them. So that'll probably be my guess.
Yeah, and Brandon, Coach B, Brandon pointed out, the window's going to close soon. I mean, you have time. And at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing the fan base wants is just players that are going to come in and make a difference. Everybody's going to be impatient. Soccer, fans are an impatient sort, and it's understandable why, especially with a team right now like Atlanta that is going through what they're going through. But the window, you do have time in terms
right?
of.
Oh no, someone's saying May here. Is that the? Because it closes just for a very short period.
Well, you have to be roster compliant at a certain point, but moves can still be made, right?
Right.
So you got to go back to what Lagerwey said too when he first got here. He's not necessarily going to go out and make this first window a big thing. He's very big in the summer window, and understandably so. So I think the biggest thing would be to just encourage everybody to be patient. I mean, I'm the most impatient person there is. I freaking hate it. I want, I don't know, freaking Messi on the squad right now, but that's not going to happen. So just you have to hope that you get one good impact signing before the season starts, and then everything else hopefully will fall into place. You get to the summer, get to the point where maybe you can have something already in place leading up to that point, and then they can just drop right in during like the Leagues Cup and go from there. But I think it's worth remembering you just still have to be patient.
You can still
trust the process.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can still get cheaper depth, and I think that's something that we've wanted over the past few years is MLS experience, right? Like we keep getting guys in here and they say that it's going to take them a while to develop or get used to being here and playing in MLS. Well, I think getting more MLS talent, if you can get some good talent, is just as reasonable, and you don't have to wait for visas and all that fun stuff either. So you can't go in. You're 3 is a good number, probably at least a couple more. I think I haven't looked at where we're at roster number wise, but you got to bring in some people here because you're not going to have any depth going into the regular season. So they're going to have to bring someone in here quick, and it's going to be. They're going to need. It would be nice for them to announce something nice this week while we're going to be all crying for the Joseph announcement. So. If you can, hopefully we don't need a new dog either. So let me just specify, we need a player. We don't need a dog. If we get a dog, cool. I love dogs, but we need a player. We need some players with some dog in them. Sure.
With some dog in them. Yes. Please bring some players with some dog in them. Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah, but we need something here.
Yeah. I think it was mentioned, and I lost the comment. I think it might've been Mark that mentioned, but, you're going to have the Joseph news, I would imagine, if it were me, and I'm not in charge, but if it were me, then absolutely announce Joseph, be done with it, and then drop the good news, please, because it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Like that. I would not want to be the social media admin for Atlanta United when that happens.
That's a job I don't envy.
Yeah, you dump that news and turn your phone off for like 3 days.
Besides the World Cup, he's had like no happiness, like at all. Like the World Cup, everybody's like, "Oh, everybody, I love Amada. I love Amada." He was having the time of his life because the first time in like years that anybody liked the Atlanta United social media. We'll get him next time. And then it was just Pineda out, Boca out. Like, they've had to have those like muted at that point. I learned how to mute things the other day on Twitter, changed my life. So I'm sure the Atlanta United thing, has muted all of them. I know there's a couple
100%.
people in here that listen that have been muted or blocked by Boca. So I can imagine what what they've done to some of these hashtags.
Yeah. Patrick in the chat saying dog DP.
Yeah, bring in a dog as a designated player. I'm here for it.
DAWG. Like we were just talking about.
James saying admin gets too much abuse for nothing, which I agree. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
They could post
a lot of people
post a picture of the dog and it's Boca out, like just randomly. It's like, oh.
A lot of people don't realize the admin has no control over who comes in and who goes.
It feels like
I like when they preface it.
Admin in charge of this team lately.
I always like when they preface it and they're like, "Look, here's the lineup I had nothing to do with it. All right, please don't
Right.
hate me.
Yeah.
All right, so to hit on some just other good news for Atlanta, though. Vicente Reyes and Efrain Morales, we talked about them a little bit last week, but they're going to be repping their national teams, Bolivia and Peru, I believe, in the Sud-America U20. So just, going back to what we were talking a little bit about with Tristan earlier, that is it's a big deal for these guys coming up through the twos, and then not even talking about the other guys that are coming up as well. And also with the academy, Chile. Sorry, it was not Peru. I'm thinking of another one. Bruno rightfully pointing out it's Chile, and Mark. But yeah, so either way, big deal. Really, really good for them to get that call up, first of all, and the fact that they're going to be repping their country and coming from Atlanta in a very big tournament in South America is a big deal. So just had to give them a little bit of a shout out. I think it's good news for the future of the club.
I feel like we get like an announcement every week that a new player is being called up to some national team. At some point, I'm like, is this a repeat tweet? Because like every other day someone's getting called up. It's great, but it's just like it's hard to keep track of all these guys getting called up, and it's a good thing. Absolutely.
Yeah, both Bolivia and Chile play on Friday. Bolivia takes on Venezuela, and then Ecuador. Or Chile takes on Ecuador. And the winner goes to the FIFA U20 World Cup. So I believe it's the winner, and I don't know if it's a second place finisher or something like that, but I could be wrong. But yeah, good to see young LA United players, make it on the world stage.
So, man, we've hit on a lot today. I really don't have much to say about this last little topic that we brought up. But, Alexander Callens, it was mentioned, obviously, between Atlanta and Boca Juniors that there was kind of a little bit of a battle going back and forth. It seems like Boca has won that and that Alexander will be going down there. Yeah, Boca Juniors. Seems like he's going to be down there. Then it was kind of mentioned like, oh, the deal's not done yet, so you never know. And right before we got on here today, though, I saw another post that was him training, doing a medical apparently down in South America. So we'll see where it goes. Nothing's official until it's official. We know that. Last minute things can happen, and you never know. But it sucks if he doesn't make it to Atlanta, but there's still other options out there. I think everybody would love to have Alexander Callens to Atlanta United, but we'll see how it goes. Right now, it seems like Boca Juniors, not Boca Negra, Boca Juniors is winning that race, though. So I'm sure by the time we do this next episode next Wednesday, we'll probably have something official on him, I would hope.
They probably would have overpaid for him anyways.
Mark's saying Kamal Miller, if we can't get Alex Callens.
Yeah,
Miller, 25 years old. I don't know if he'd turn down to move to the U.S. to remain in Canada, which is where he's from. I think if we were to make it, we would probably be to Toronto or something like that. But I mean, Miller's definitely a good shout. National team international experience with Canada, played in the World Cup.
All-star.
You could do a lot worse. Yeah, this all-star could do a lot worse.
Yeah. So there's potential out there. I'm curious to see if any of the potential three players that Pineda mentioned the other day are any of the ones that we've been mentioning here today. We'll see. I'm sure, hopefully soon.
Mm-hmm.
He even mentioned, by the way, Pineda was like, how roster moves and how things go with contracts and all that stuff. So because he was asked, who are they going to be,
Yeah.
But he can't reveal that kind of stuff. I was really surprised that he even pointed out that they're potentially going to have three players coming in. That's a big deal, actually. If you don't follow the team or many MLS teams in general, by the way, that's not something you hear from your head coach the first day the media is back. So
I just wanted to shut the fans up. That's why he said it.
I mean, yeah, give them something to bite on, So I'm good with it, though. I think you got to start building up the excitement sooner than later. So hopefully by the end of the week, there'll be some good news, and we'll be back here next Wednesday to chat about it.
Yeah. Quick shout out before we go. The U.S. Women's National Team, they play in pair friendlies this week. They are playing New Zealand in Wellington on Tuesday. Right after recording this at 10:05, and then New Zealand again on Friday, 10:05 Eastern Time. So that's on HBO Max. Say it again.
HBO Max. There's a whole controversy with that, I guess. I haven't really looked into it, but it doesn't seem good.
Unfortunately, the contract they have, or U.S. Soccer have with Warner Brothers Discovery, which is HBO Max's parent company, is that they can't stream the matches in bars, which is unfortunate. But from what I heard from the American Outlaws, it sounds like there is a workaround that will be in place. Men are in action next week in California. They play Serbia on the 25th, and then Colombia, which would be a great match, on the 28th. I believe that Colombia match is going to be on TNT as well. So a new era really for U.S. soccer when it comes to their broadcast, right? Starting out with the former Turner Sports, now Warner Brothers Discovery Sports, beginning this year, happening for the next few years, and to be on HBO Max and TBS and TNT select matches. So we'll see what that holds in store. We'll see how their coverage is moving forward.
We got to get into TV coverage at some point before the season starts. Talk about Apple and just overall presentations. Like, it seems like it's everywhere now, right? Like, every streaming service is gaining it, and it's something that just always interests me to see that, like, how every streaming service, what kind of exposure they give it with commercials, what kind of like stage do they do. Like Paramount did a decent job at a few games, and then some of them they just seem like they half-assed it. So it's interesting. Like Apple, I have a feeling is gonna just be kind of a disaster early on, and then just get better as we move on. But maybe it'll surprise us.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they've got a good
CBS
lineup.
Really set a high bar with their Champions League coverage, so we can only hope that Apple and really Warner Bros. Discovery kind of try to reach for that bar themselves.
And it was also mentioned too. I think the I don't know if you want to call it a rumor. I didn't look a lot into it, but it was mentioned that Apple's trying to now pursue the Premier League rights as well. So yeah, throw that money out there. We'll see where it goes. Yeah, exactly. But exciting stuff. I think no matter what, even if it does get off to a kind of a rocky start, which you kind of expect with a brand new group getting involved in this whole business. It may be a little rough in the beginning, but I think with the amount of money that they're putting into the league, it's a big deal. So hopefully here in the future, soon, very near future, we can chat with some folks that are a little more involved with Apple and the broadcast. So, one of the biggest things that we tried to give you guys is bringing in different guests and all. As we do this every week, and hopefully that is one of the things that we can kind of get some insight on. But we're working on that. We're going to try to bring you guys as many cool folks as we can, and get you guys some insight that you might not otherwise get. So,
stay tuned.
Any final thoughts, Sydney, Tommy?
No, I really have no final thoughts. Go USA. It's a World Cup year for the women's national team. So
yeah,
hopefully they win both friendlies this weekend and get the year off to a good start. And the men too, even though it's not a World Cup year for the men.
Women got to get it together. They've looked not particularly great over the past couple winters.
Below their standards.
Yeah, and looks bad right when they got paid, right? Like, it's just as soon as they finally got it seemed like they went down a little bit. But I think that they'll end up cleaning it up by then. But yeah, I mean, let's just wait for the tweet, right? And that's what this week is all about. It's just waiting for it. So we'll get that. I'm sure we'll get a message from Boca, saying everything that he's done for us, and it's going to be very cringy, but. Let's move on to the next step. Let's move on to moving on from Joseph is truly Atlanta United 2.0.
Yeah.
Well, We appreciate it, guys. Absolutely. I'm sure we'll probably see that news coming out soon, and just be ready for it now. It is what it is, and hope good news follows. We'll be here next week. So again, just to give everybody a quick update, next Wednesday, right? It'll be same thing, 7:00, which is going to be our normal time. So, yep, 7:00. We'll be live. Obviously, after the fact, you guys can listen to us via the Dirty South Soccer podcast feed. We'll be on there. It should be up here in the next couple of hours, and then from there on, you guys can listen to the audio, or on YouTube, or on Twitch after the fact. So, we appreciate the support, guys. We see y'all's comments in the chat. We absolutely appreciate the support. Want to thank Tristan Trager for coming on as well. Charleston Battery for his move over there. Congrats to him. And yeah, we just thank you guys for the support. So make sure you guys are following us at Scarves and Spikes on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Myself at ATL Pilgrim, Sydney at SH Wrights, Tommy at Tommy ATL 96. Changed it up on us.
Got it.
Yeah.
So thank you guys again for everything, and we love it.
See y'all.
Yep.